Jackson Systems is your leading provider for HVAC controls, with products like our award-winning zoning solutions that completely eliminate the need for bypass dampers, our filter fetch service that pays you while homeowners get the filters they need, thermostats imprinted with your logo, complete home and business automation with connected thermostats, cameras, and intelligent Wi-Fi solutions from Nest, Ecobee, Honeywell, Google, and more. Visit us at jacksonsystems.com to see the products that continue to win industry acclaim among contractors across the country. Jackson Systems, controls done right.
You're listening to the HVAC After Dark podcast, a no-nonsense HVAC podcast from real HVAC technicians. All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of HVAC After Dark podcast. Guys, on this episode, I've got old Gil Cavey back in here with me, and we are talking about maintenance contracts. And we touched a little bit on, we kind of got off topic a little bit at one part where we touched on kind of invoicing and stuff like that too. But you know, it's all in the same. It's all the same aspect. You know, but it is about maintenance, guys. Me and Gil been talking, and it looks like Gil is going to go ahead and come on as my co-host. You know, we have so much in common. Every time we podcast together, it's great. It's always a great podcast. So I decided, me and Gil talked about it, and I think we're just going to go ahead and co-host together. I explained to him, you know, it's not that I never wanted to have him. I just didn't want our friendship to become what the previous friendship I had with another guy that I podcasted with. But I think we're going to be okay. We had a long talk about it. Gil really wants to be involved, and I want him involved. And a lot of you guys have enjoyed when we do it together and have requested that we co-host the podcast. So it looks like that's what we're going to do. This week, guys, this work has picked up. Work's been kind of up and down, you know. Busy one day, not busy the next. It's been up and down. But the past 2 days have been really good. Actually, the past 3 days. Monday, I ran several service calls, getting ready to start running my winter maintenances, which is kind of why we wanted to touch on this subject in the podcast, because everybody's pretty much gearing up to run their winter maintenances if you're not already doing your fall maintenances. Yesterday, I put in a ICP 3-ton condenser with a horizontal coil. Job came out really well. Customer's very pleased. I was really happy with the way that it turned out. And today I did something that I don't get to do a whole lot because the market here is just not here yet, but it's starting to grow. I put in a mini split today. No, actually, let me rephrase that. I changed out a mini split. I've installed several mini splits, like brand new installations, you know, where you drill the hole through the wall and, you know, all that. But today I actually took out an existing mini split and replaced it with a new one. And man, what a easy job, easy money. I was out of there in 2 hours. Now, for those of you that know me and follow me, you know that I'm a huge Mitsubishi fan. The only problem that I have with Mitsubishi is I can't always sell Mitsubishi due to the price. Mitsubishi is very expensive here for me to buy. Now, I get Mitsubishi from the same supply house that I get my ICP equipment from. But again, I can't always do Mitsubishi because of the price. So I've talked to some of my buddies that I've met here on Facebook and YouTube, and been, you know, trying to come up with another mini split to offer people that's priced reasonably, but is not a piece of junk. Ari Michael over here, they have Fujitsu. I've heard negative and positive things about Fujitsu. But the price on them is not great either. They're almost as expensive as Mitsubishi. And they also carry one called Comfort Star. It's very cheaply made. I bought one for a customer, and I was not impressed with it at all. I mean, it's been running good for them, but I just wasn't impressed. And a buddy of mine in Texas that I'm friends with, that I met through the YouTube community a while back, suggested Gree. And I know that Gree makes all the forced air brand mini splits, like Train, American Standard, Rude, Ream. I believe they do the Carriers, the ICPs, everybody as far as I know. And for those of you that have a Baker Distributing, that's where Gree is here. I went over to Baker for this job, quoted the people out of Mitsubishi. They did not want to spend that kind of money, so I told them to let me quote them another one. Went to Baker, got a price, and my cost was so much less than Mitsubishi. Requoted the job with the Gree and got the job and installed it today. I was extremely impressed with Gree. I haven't heard anything bad about Gree. Everybody that I've talked to that's ever done a Gree or done several Grees has told me that they've had nothing but good luck, no trouble out of them. I was very, very impressed. It was a very well-built machine, and I will not hesitate to sell another Gree. Now, of course, I'm going to always try to sell a Mitsubishi, because Mitsubishi is the Cadillac of mini splits. I mean, they're the best that you can get. But, again, I was extremely impressed with the Gree, and I will not hesitate to sell another Gree. I mean, it was just really stout, really well built. I really liked it. A lot of these mini splits, where your voltage cover is, where you hook up your high voltage and your communication wire, and then down at the bottom you have your cover that goes over your service valves for your line set and your flared fittings. A lot of mini splits, those are plastic, and they're flimsy, and they crack, and they can crack really easy if you're not careful. The ones on the Gree were actually metal. Both covers were like metal. They weren't plastic. So I was very impressed. And when I fired the system up, it did very, very well. I stayed there with it for a while, and it was a really good system. It was very, very installer friendly. The valves were, pretty much like any other mini split, but like the electrical and stuff was really roomy, easy to hook up, your wiring and all that. So was the air handler. The air handler has a really nice display on it. See, like the head, I should say. You take like Mitsubishi and stuff, they don't have a display on the head, but the Gree does. It has a huge display with the temperature and if what mode you're in, cooling or whatever. So I was very impressed. And the Gree head was also very service friendly. It was very easy to hook up the communication wire, very easy to, to bend your copper around, and the drain is switchable. You can switch the drain from one side of the head to the other. I was impressed with that. The way that the Gree head came, the drain was hooked up on the opposite side from the copper. So all you do is it comes with like this little clip. You unclip the drain, and then you pull the plug out of the other side, you hook the drain up, you put the clip back on, and then you take the plug and you install it on the other side that you're not going to use. Very simple, very nice piece of equipment. I was very, very impressed with it. I'd love to hear some feedback. If you have experience with Gree, you can leave a comment. Now, if you're listening to this on your phone or tablet or wherever, you'll have to go over to my YouTube channel to leave a comment, because the podcast is on the YouTube channel too. So yeah, leave a comment. Let me know what you guys think about Gree. And speaking of listening to the podcast, I want everybody to know that I've had some people ask me, they've wrote on YouTube and wrote on Facebook and said, "Hey, John, we can't find you on Stitcher." I thought that I was on Stitcher all this time, but I had two guys bring it to my attention that they couldn't find me. Well, guys, the podcast is now on Stitcher. I went to Stitcher's website. I created an account. I loaded my show. You have to go, if you have a podcast, you have to enter the URL to your show and all that. I did all that. It took Stitcher about 2 days. They approved my show. I got the verification email. I downloaded the Stitcher app. I don't have an Android myself, but the Stitcher app is available on Apple products also, and I did not know that. So I went ahead and downloaded the Stitcher app on my iPhone just to verify that my show was on there, and it is on there. The podcast is now on the Stitcher app, so we should be good to go there. So if you're an Android user, I know there's another one called Podcast Addict, but I know I've had other Android users tell me that they don't like Podcast Addict. They prefer Stitcher. So the podcast is on Stitcher. So if you like Stitcher, you just search HVAC After Dark. You will find the podcast. All right, guys. Well, that's all I got for you guys here on the opening. Thank y'all for listening. And again, I want to remind you guys, if you shop at TruTech Tools, when you go to checkout, enter the discount code or coupon code After Dark, and you'll save 8% off your order. That's coupon code After Dark at TruTech Tools. We're going to get into the conversation with Gil Cavey. Y'all enjoy. If you're an educator, you know how important it is to be sure that you're teaching the next generation of HVAC professionals with the best tools. Well, my friends at Bacharach want to help y'all out. That's right. When you go to www.mybacharach.com/offers and insert the promo code AfterDark50, you can save 50% when you purchase some of Bacharach's most popular HVAC instruments. You heard that right. 50% off the Firite Insight Plus Combustion Analyzer, Informant 2 Leak Detector, and my personal favorite, the H10 Pro. If you teach HVAC, you owe it to your students to take advantage of this offer. Go to mybacharach.com/offers and use the promo code AfterDark50 and let them know that John Israel sent you.
Sporlan, creating products that provide solutions so that your air conditioning and refrigeration needs are not only met, but exceeded. Offer the highest quality products, innovative solutions, and unparalleled support in the market.
All right, guys, let's welcome back Gil Cavey. Gil, how you doing, buddy?
Good, buddy. What's up, everybody?
Thanks for always being old faithful and coming in and podcasting with me.
Oh, it's all good, buddy. I love it, man. Anytime.
Well, you saw I put up a poll in the Facebook group, and Winter Maintenance won the poll. So I figured this is what we would do. Gil is in a market where it's a hell of a lot colder than it is here.
I'm freezing my nuts off right now.
Cold over here is the mid 40s. To us, that's cold. If we get down in the 30s, we're all going to fucking die over here in Louisiana. So, and Gil, I know, does a hell of a lot more heater work than I do because I do very little. And the ones that I do are heat pumps. 90% of the time are electric heat.
It's blowing cold air.
That's right. Very little gas here. But I know Gil has a lot of gas-fired equipment over there. So I'm going to let Gil kind of kick this thing off, and I'll let him talk about how because matter of fact, we were talking off air a minute ago, and he was saying that this was a great time for us to discuss this topic because he's actually in the process of doing his winter maintenances right now. I'll let Gil talk about how he runs through a winter maintenance on gas-fired stuff. But real quick, do y'all have, is it strictly gas or y'all got some oil-fired stuff too?
We do have some oil-fired stuff, but we don't touch much oil. Around here, there's pretty much companies that are just dedicated to oil. It's pretty much the companies that deliver the oil take care of it. We have a few that we install and take care of like for good customers, but we stay away from it.
I got you. Okay, well, Gil, just kind of just however you want to explain it, man. You know, you can explain the way y'all schedule y'all's fall maintenances, because I'm sure guys would like to hear us touch on that. And you can also just kind of walk us through how you do a maintenance.
For us, we pretty much have all of our service contracts. We like this time of year, or like I would say it was probably starting in September. The girl in the office will start calling all of those customers saying, hey, it's that time of year. It's time to schedule your fall PM. And they probably, I mean, obviously, I mean, most people, guys, and the small business owners know that, you know, your PMs are there to get you through, you know, the seasons. Especially in Maryland, we actually have all 4 seasons. So, you know, summertime hits, fall PMs take you till winter, spring PMs take you till summer. So we try to fill that gap, and we have a good number, so it's a lot of them. But yeah, they get scheduled every once in a while. You get those people just calling in wanting a one-time checkup. Other than that, that's pretty much the gist of scheduling them. When I go into a PM, you know, obviously I walk in, turn the thermostat on. I talk to the customer. I ask them, hey, has everything been working all right? You know, if they haven't started their heat yet, well, last season, you know, was everything working okay? And some people be like, well, no, it was doing this or doing that. And sometimes that feedback can let you know, hey, maybe I need to look at this. Maybe I need to look at that.
Right.
But yeah, but for the most of it, you know, we clean it, you know, take the burners apart, clean the burners, you know what I mean? Clean the flame sensor, you know, and actually taking the burners out and actually cleaning them with, like, you know, a little wire brush. The front of them get all corroded. You got to clean that stuff off. I see too many companies that do PMs that they walk in and do a temperature rise and check a capacitor and roll out.
Right.
You know, if you're not creating value on your PMs, people aren't going to, you know, they're not stupid. If you're there for 15 minutes and roll, you know, they know that. Ours, I mean, let me backtrack for a second. I mean, I tell my guys that our PM should be at least an hour. I give them it anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half. An hour and a half is kind of pushing it. I think they can do it a little bit quicker than that. Back to it. Yeah, we do all the cleaning stuff first. You know, clean the flame sensor, clean the burners, you know, ohm out the igniter. Normally, I look when it hasn't been running and it's cold, like room temperature, anywhere from 50 to 80 ohms. Normally, like in the 65, 70 is what I look for. You start to see that like white carbon build up, you know, a lot of times it's time to change it. And don't be afraid to recommend those things. That's why you're there, you know, to find these issues. So it's not, you know, 5 degrees outside and the people have no heat.
Yeah. I mean, the little bit of gas that we have here, I do know, you know, that when you see that white stuff building up on the igniter, I usually recommend a replacement. Now, is a combustion analysis included in y'all's PM, or is that extra?
No, for our service agreement customers, we give it to them.
Okay.
For one-time maintenance checks, we don't. If they want it, they got to pay extra. That's kind of a perk. If you're loyal to us by, you know, being one of our service agreement customers, then we're loyal to you by giving you those extra perks.
Right. Okay. So are you comfortable talking about how much a yearly contract is with your company? Okay. Is that something you can do?
Yeah, I don't mind.
Okay.
We're actually, I mean, ours are actually relatively cheap for our area. We actually just raised ours for the first time in 7 years. We are $199 for the year. That gets you 2 checkups, you know, a summer checkup, well, a spring checkup and a fall checkup.
Right.
And then throughout that year, you get, you know, 15% off anything that ever goes wrong. Priority service. So, you know, 4th of July and 8 calls come in and 2 of them are service agreement customers, they get pushed to the top of the list.
Right.
And we're slowly working it out where we're going to make our service agreement customers not have diagnostic fees. We only charge $65 for a diagnostic. It was $95 and we had a $30 off coupon floating around, and the owner decided just to give it to everyone.
Right.
So it's cool. I mean, and we figure, and not that we're trying to be untrustworthy or not honest, but giving them that $65, if we can't make that up through over the year, then we're doing something wrong. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
okay. So if somebody calls your company and says, "Hey, look, we just want you to come out and check our heat or our air," and I mean, I guess this podcast will kind of be, based around winter maintenance and just maintenance contracts in general. So if you get a phone call and they say, "Hey, I just want you to come check my air, or I want you to just come check my heat. I don't want a contract. Just, what is the one-time fee for that? And if they want a combustion analysis, how much extra is that?"
well, the one-time fee is a 130, and then if they want the combustion analysis, normally I only charge them like an extra. It's like $59.99, something like that. And normally that's my lead in to get them to do a service contract.
Right.
Ma'am, sir, you're getting ready to spend $199 for me to do this visit today, and then it's kind of a wham bam, thank you, ma'am, you're done. Well, for that same cost, you can have this contract that's going to cover you throughout the year. The other thing I want to bring in that I know I've talked to you about, we've gotten real big on, we offer a monthly thing. It's $15 a month, so it actually comes out to where they're only paying $180. It saves them $20.
Right.
And we've just found out after taking some different classes, there's a guy in one of the groups, Ted Gravelin, who he's actually talked about it, and it helps. Like, we were always good at selling service contracts, but not good at renewing. If a lot of guys out there don't know, your service contracts, that's what defines your company. That's what makes you valuable. That's the people that when something goes wrong, they're going to call you.
Right. Because
the
way I look at it, a service agreement customer is a lock-in customer, and not only that, if equipment does have to be replaced, the chances of them getting other quotes are very slim to none.
Yeah, exactly. You've built that relationship up with them over a period of time. You know what I mean? So, and that's the whole point. So it's $15 a month. It's an automatic thing, like on a credit card. They can pick the time of the month, and it automatically renews. So what we do on our last visit there is we hand the customer a survey. Mrs. Johnson, this is the last time we're going to see you on your existing service contract. Have you been happy with us throughout the year? If they say yes, okay, ma'am, well, we just wanted you to know that, your service contract is going to automatically renew for the upcoming year. And they say, oh, okay. Or if they say no, I say, obviously, why not try to handle the issue?
Right.
If they're unhappy, then I'm going to tell them, well, hey, you might want to call our office and let them know to cancel your service contract. Normally that's rare, but just being honest, because people don't like that, you just bill them and then it's like, oh, well, what the hell is this money? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So how is the monthly thing working? And your company automatically runs a credit card or drafts a bank account. And also, if they don't pay 1 month, or the credit card's declined, or the bank draft bounces, are they kicked out the program? Can you answer those questions?
Yeah, to be honest, we haven't had that as much as I would have, thought we would. We had a couple, we actually tried this a while back and went away from it because we had a couple of issues. But it's one of those things we just kind of had to surge through because all of the bigger successful companies are doing that. So we have had some issues. If we run the card and it doesn't work, we call the person. And a lot of times, believe it or not, it's people, oh man, I didn't know. I'm so sorry. They give us another card or something. You get those assholes where when they hear that, they get that first service, they only get it for $15.
Yeah.
But the sad part is it doesn't happen that much. And I'm willing to take that risk because all of the bigger companies around me that I'm competing against offer those monthly services. So I have to offer it. Obviously that's what I want them to do, but some people don't. They'd rather just pay for it. So I'm not going to be like, oh, you can't do that. I just let them pay for it. That's the other thing we do with those people that can't make the payment. We say, would you rather just pay for it for the whole year? And some people say, yeah, you know what, let me just do that. So that's happened as well.
Yeah, the larger companies here, they do offer the by the month maintenance contracts. I myself do not offer that right now. I never have, but it's definitely something that I should probably look into. My maintenance contract is $150 a year, and that might sound cheap, but for this area, it's not.
Yeah, well, it's all based on your area. You know what I mean?
Right. So, and usually I tell people about it, and they're fine with it. They just pay the $150 for the whole year. But the monthly payments is something that I should definitely look into. And then I could calculate it to where they get like a, like you said, a $20 discount or a $10 $15 discount if they decide to pay monthly. I guess the good thing about monthly is if you got a shit ton of maintenance customers, you always got money coming in, some way.
Oh yeah, exactly. Actually, our good buddy Matt Mitchell, I actually like the way that he does it as well. I don't think he offers like the credit thing, but he said how they do it where, it's the 2 visits a year, but people, I don't know, just for example, say it's $100. People pay the $50 for the first visit, and then they pay for the second visit as it comes, or something like that. But the way he had it was actually pretty cool.
Oh yeah, yeah. Okay, I see. Yeah, I'll have to talk to him about that because as a father and son company, and my stepmother does the books and stuff. It's kind of hard to do a monthly thing, I don't know if there's a credit card. I don't know. We use Square. I don't know if you can set the customer up through Square where it'll automatically run their credit card on this day of every month.
You can. I forget the actual program. I don't really get into the finance part of it, but the girl in our office, I do know that she enters the information into a program, puts in the time of the month that the customer picked, and we have a signed paper that the customer signs, says that it's okay to draw that card, just for legality purposes. And it's a carbon copy form. So they fill it out, we rip it off. We keep one, they get one. And she punches all that into the computer and it automatically does it. So it actually helps as far as, data entry in the office, because she does it one time and it's good to go.
Right. Yeah. I need to see if Square has that to where, I can enter a customer and their credit card number and tell it to charge that credit card on this particular date every month.
Yeah, that's one thing for my company being, we're not a big company, you know what I mean? Smaller, but
right. But you're big, but you're bigger than me. Y'all have like 6 trucks, versus I have 2. But
yeah,
but you're still a small company.
Yeah, but our thing is right now when we take credit cards for payment, we actually still old fashioned write them down on the paper and take it to the office and run it, which, to be honest, is not good. Me personally, I wouldn't want my info written down. We've never ever had an issue, but we used the whole Square thing years back, and we had an issue where it was taking the money out of the customer's account, but it didn't go into the business account. They say it was floating in space. So my owner, being old school, was like, screw it, don't do it. But we have to get back on something like that because, it's 2017,
Absolutely. So are y'all still like paper writing? Like y'all still have paper invoices that y'all hand write?
Yes, we do. We're looking into the whole tablet thing now. I've been bringing it up to the owner more and more, and he does think it's a good idea. It's going to save on data entry and all the perks you get with it, when you get there and you can see the history, everybody that's been out there and taking credit cards and things like that. So
right.
We'll see. It's going to be an investment.
Yeah. I at one time had moved to a tablet and was doing my invoicing that way and giving people a receipt via email. I don't really have room in my truck for a printer. I may have to make some room, because I have an inverter in my truck. I may have to make some room in my truck for a printer because, I'm all about the technology. You know, I have an iPad, but the thing is, I still got my dad with me, and he's not going to do that. But a lot of people here, they don't even some of the younger generation still prefer a handwritten ticket here. I don't know why, but then again, some of them, you know, when I was doing it, see, I'm back to strictly paper now, and I don't have any complaints. But okay, so y'all's maintenance contracts. I mean, are they on paper? So you got to feel like if somebody buys a maintenance contract, you got to fill their, you know, name in and all that, or is that's all still paper also?
Yeah, it's all paper. It's the same thing. It's a 2-thing carbon copy where we
Right.
fill it out, name, address, email, you know, all that good stuff. And then it on the one side, it just goes over everything we check in cooling, everything we check in heating. And then once they sign it and the tech who sells it puts their name on, because we actually give any new service contract that's sold, we give our guys $20 for doing it.
Right.
So it just keeps track, and then they get a copy, and the copy goes to the office.
Yeah. Yeah. That's kind of the same thing that I do on the furnace checks. The getting back to the actual doing the maintenance itself. Do y'all do like a lot of media filters on y'all's installs or electronic air cleaners?
Yes, a long story short, I mean, you know, John, I have a wife with a brain condition and 4 children, so
Right.
I'm big on indoor air quality. You know,
Right.
there's products I have on my house, so I offer it on every install. I'll put like I said before, I do the good, better, best thing, and I always put an option for electric air cleaner and then a media filter, as
Right.
like what it costs and the extra. I'm big on at least a media filter. If the customer tells us, we will bring that with us. And we just do it at cost. We don't mark it up or nothing like that. Whatever we pay for it, they pay for it. And we bring it with us, every 6 months when we're there.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was going is, I'm sure that's part of the, well, I mean, they have to pay extra for the filter, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, they just pay for the filter. Like I said, if it costs me, $30, they pay $30. I don't charge them 60. I just make them pay for whatever the filter is. We're going there anyway, so it's not a big deal.
Right, right. But I'm with you, brother. I'll here lately, I've become really big on indoor air quality, and I at least try to do a 5-inch media filter on all my change outs. But a lot of people don't want to climb up in the attic to go change their filter. But I try to explain to them that if they buy a maintenance contract, I will do it when I come. And
Yeah, and they're only doing it every 6 months.
exactly, and I try to tell them that. Now, I've had really good luck at telling them. Like one guy was like, "Oh man, I don't want that. I don't want to have to climb up in my attic every month to change my filter." I said, "No, dude, this is a freaking 5-inch filter. You don't have to change this filter, but like every 6 months." I said, "If you got a maintenance contract with me, I'll do it when I come." I sold him a complete system, and when I told him that, he was like, "Oh well, hell yeah, then." That way. He said, "So I don't have to buy these little filters down in the house anymore?" I said, "No, sir." He said, "Oh well, shit." He said, "Put that bitch in there."
Yeah, I don't blame you. Well, I mean, and this is a fact that I heard that I tell customers a lot. A lot of customers don't realize that some of the dirtiest air that they breathe all day is in their own home.
Oh yeah,
You
absolutely.
know, it just viruses, different things just recirculate. It's like it's not just about having a good heating and cooling system. It's about heating and cooling clean air. You know what I mean?
Right, right. Absolutely. I couldn't agree with that more. So, guys, on my end, Gil went through, pretty much how he does a furnace check. And I let Gil talk about the furnaces because Gil does a lot more gas fired stuff than I do. Well, on a heat pump, there's really not much I can explain to you guys. It's kind of like you're doing a second air conditioning checkup. You're checking the capacitors, you're checking the contactor. You're going to force it. I force mine into defrost, to make sure the defrost cycle's working. Then I take a voltage reading to make sure that the defrost board is, sending 24 volts to the sequencers. And then, of course, I go in the attic and I check the heat strips and I check the blower capacitor and all that. Heat pumps there's nothing really too much to talk about. It's kind of like you're doing a second air conditioning checkup, except you're forcing the unit into defrost and you're checking the heat strips. I mean, Gil, do y'all have a lot of heat pumps up there? I would imagine not with the cold weather.
No, believe it or not, we do. Like I said,
Okay.
I actually have 2 of the inverter heat pumps in my house. And a good topic that was actually in the Facebook group today is a lot of guys don't do this, but do you ohm the contactor out, like the contactor coil?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Every
because
time I roll up on the maintenance.
yeah, because guys, you don't realize. I mean, take one of the wires off, ohm that thing out. Okay, my rule of thumb is you should always be between 10 and 20.
That's correct.
15, yeah, 15 is ideal. If you are out of that range, replace it. Otherwise, you're going to be out there 10 o'clock at night for a low voltage short. And believe it or not, a lot of guys, it takes them forever to find that when your contactor is your short. Trust me.
You know, guys, Gil, y'all really should listen to what Gil just said because he's 100% correct. Um, that contactor coil will short out a low voltage fuse in a heartbeat. And a lot of guys don't think to go look for that contactor coil and they stay there for hours. But, you know, I guess I never really asked the question. But yeah, guys, if you're not ohming out your contactor coils on your maintenances, man, you really need to start. And like Gil said, the rule of thumb, everything, I've talked to a bunch of people, I've done some research. The rule of thumb is between 10 and 20 ohms. If you're under 10 ohms, replace it. If you're over 20 ohms, replace it. Like Gil said, 15, 16, 17, that's your sweet spot. But yeah, guys, thank you for bringing that up, Gil, because if you're not ohming out your contactor coil, you really, really need to start. Will really, really save you a headache.
Yeah, I mean, and the other thing that was in there is, guys, when you check your technically you should check, and I don't always do this, so I'm not going to sit here and act like I do, but you should check them while they're running and when it's off, because sometimes you can get 2 different readings. That thing can look like it's fine when it's, you know, when it's off, but then when you do it when it's running, you get a whole different reading. So sometimes it is good to do it both ways. And if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, look in our group. I shared a post that Brian Orr did that's actually really good, that goes over some things about capacitors that you wouldn't think about.
Yeah, I read that. That was a good post from Brian Orr. But, you know, I'll be completely honest. I have never checked a capacitor live or under a load while the unit's running. I've never done it. But I'm going to try it out starting tomorrow. You know, I probably won't do it tomorrow because I'm changing out a mini split, but I will. I'm fixing to start running maintenances, and they're going to be mostly heat pumps, and I'm going to check them like that. I'm excited to try it out. Brian Orr posted a thing on Facebook, and Gil shared it in the group. You know, it tells you how to check a capacitor under a load while the unit is running, and I've always heard that that's the better way to check them. Now, with that being said, a lot of guys visually inspect the capacitor around here anyway. I've actually heard guys talking to the supply house. Oh man, I don't stay on the fucking maintenances all day. I pop that cover open, I look at the capacitors. If they don't look swollen, then I'm out of there. You know, guys, that's a no-no. You know, just because that capacitor's not swollen, that don't mean a damn thing. That capacitor does not have to be swollen to be bad or weak. I mean, it could still be weak. Don't go off of just, is it swollen or not? Please check it.
Yeah.
You know, even if you're checking it live or with the unit off, don't just look at it and go, it's not swollen, it's good. And you know, guys, check your blower capacitors. A lot of guys think that just because a blower capacitor goes out, you got to change the blower motor. Guys, that's not true either. If you live by that logic, then every time a dual run goes bad on the hermetic side, that means you need to change the compressor every time. You know, don't live by that. These capacitors are not made like they used to be. Check your blower capacitor, because I have been on many, many units where I've changed just the blower capacitor, and that unit is still running today, and it's been several years.
And you hit the nail on the head, John. I mean, guys, that's why you're there, to find these issues so that the customer doesn't have the bigger problem. If you leave that, and another thing is, a capacitor being too high is just as bad as being too weak. Okay. Right. So if you find that weak and you let it go, when that, that blower motor dies. I mean, you know what I mean? You change that, you just save the customer a headache. That's your purpose in being there, fellas. You know what I mean? Don't be afraid to find something wrong. I mean, granted, on all maintenances, is there something wrong? No. But if there is, that's your job to tell them. If they don't do it, then you document that in your ticket and you just covered your ass. When it does go, well, remember, Mrs. Jones, so-and-so was back here doing your maintenance and they said that this was weak. Oh, yeah, I do remember him saying that.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a thing my dad taught me, and I'm sure, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying my dad's the one that came up with it, because he's not, but there's a thing called CYA, cover your ass. So
damn right.
So you document everything. You go in there and you find a weak capacitor, and you go tell Mr. or Mrs. Johnson that the capacitor is weak, and they don't give you the approval to change it. You write that shit down on your ticket, on your invoice. That way, when they argue with you, when the capacitor completely shits the bed and the motor quits running or the compressor quits running, well, why didn't you tell me that capacitor was weak when you came out on the maintenance? You pull that damn invoice up and you say, well, look right here on the ticket. I told you that it was weak and you denied to change it. That's where that CYA, cover your ass.
Yeah, brother. I always tell people, my guys, be thorough in your tickets. I know that you're going to write a bunch of stuff that the customer has no idea what superheat, subcool, run load amps, FL, full load amps means, but it's good to have it in there. In 6 months, you're not going to remember what you did in that call, but right. You have it documented on that piece of paper that we have it. If we ever have to go back to it, it's there. I don't like it when my guys know better, but they don't write, performed fall PM, everything looks good. Hell no. You will never leave a ticket like that.
Right. Here's the thing, guys. I know none of us like paperwork. Do y'all know what I hate most about my job? Paperwork. I mean, it's the honest to God truth. Paperwork. Yeah, I cannot stand filling out an invoice. I cannot stand filling out a maintenance contract. I hate it. That's the part that I hate the most, is getting in that truck and sitting there and doing paperwork. I hate it, but it's got to be done. And like Gil said, you can't just write performed fall maintenance, everything looks good. That's not going to cut it. Unfortunately, we do have to do some writing. And if you don't, it's going to come back to bite you in the ass. Because if you don't write that capacitor was weak, or any other issue you might find, then if you don't write that on the ticket, then Mr. and Mrs. Johnson has a case against you. If you work for somebody, well, your technician never told me the capacitor was weak. You can sit there and tell your boss that you did till you're blue in the face, but you have no proof, and the customer's always right, unless you document it on your ticket. I informed Mr. and Mrs. Johnson that the run capacitor was weak and they denied to replace.
They signed it.
And they signed exactly. And they signed the ticket. Guess what? CYA. You covered your ass.
Yep. And hey, but I don't want to backtrack, but a few things that I don't want to miss out on this maintenance topic for furnaces is, a lot of guys, when you're checking your safety circuit, you do just a continuity test. That's all fine and dandy, but guys, you need to find where those wires connect to the board and actually ohm them out. Not continuity, get an ohm reading, okay? Because sometimes those will actually make a connection. You guys should have no resistance. I mean, it should be like maybe 1 ohm, 2 ohm, 3 ohms. It's only going through a couple of switches and back to the board. If you have a high ohm resistance, because you have one that's faulty, that's just not showing up yet.
Are you talking about limit switches and stuff on furnaces?
Yeah, your limit switches, okay. Your rollouts, your draft switch.
Right.
A lot of guys just do the continuity test, it beeps, they're all good. Right. That's not always the case. The other thing is, guys, your temperature rise, okay? A lot of guys don't know when you take your temperature rise, they want to stick it right in the canvas above the coil. You should be taking that temperature 6 to 10 feet away from the coil. Your return temp, yes, you can take it as close as you can, farther. And if you have any kind of close to a high reading, for example, if it's the temperature rise is supposed to be 30 to 60, you want to be in the middle, 45. If you're above that, you need to check the heat exchanger, guys. You have to visually inspect it. And as big as I am on combustion analysis, that is not how you find cracked heat exchangers. That is just a way to confirm or say, hey, I need to, look a little deeper. On there and something happens to those people, that's your ass, man. And I've seen it happen before, guys. You got to be careful out there.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with that anymore. There's not a lot of gas-fired stuff here, but anytime I have a suspicion that a heat exchanger is cracked, I always put my eyes on it. And over here, a lot of times that means pulling the coil. That means, sometimes if I'm in a big attic, I have enough slack in the line set where I can slide the coil out of the case and get my head in there and look at the heat exchanger. There's been other situations where I've had to pump the condenser down in the winter and slide the coil and cut the copper and slide the coil out. And I've only done that a few times, where I've had a real big suspicion. And both times that I did it, the exchanger was cracked. So it was a good thing that I did it. And
we pull the blower on every maintenance. I mean,
Right.
really, it's 2 screws, man. It's not hard. Climb your ass up in there and look at it and educate
man,
yourself.
I feel like an idiot now. I guess I could have just pulled the fucking blower motor out instead of pulling the damn coil.
Yeah, but sometimes you still got to do that, though.
Yeah.
On 90%, I mean, you can't see the primary when you go underneath. All you're going to see is the secondary. So
Right.
we still got to do that. So, I mean, it happens. There ain't nothing wrong with doing it that way. You can probably see going underneath of it.
Yeah, well, fortunately, there are no 90s here. I think I've seen in the 15 years I've been doing this, I think I've seen like 3, maybe 4 90% furnaces here. And
they're big here.
Yeah, I figured, with the cold weather. But, here being Louisiana, I told you what our temperatures are here. I feel like I'd be stealing a customer's money if I was to sell them a 90% furnace because they'll never get their money back. They won't use it enough here, Gas furnaces last a really long time here because they don't get used. They don't run very much.
Yeah, no, I mean, that makes sense. I mean, here, and I learned in a class, and I won't go into it. That's going to be another topic. But most units we know don't have enough return air. I mean, have you ever walked up to a furnace and you see the little notches on the furnace?
Yeah.
And they're still there? Guys, the whole point of that's the manufacturer telling you the return should be this big. Yeah. That's what it's supposed to take up. It's not optional. You know what I mean? And when you do that, you're already underfeeding that furnace. It's probably going to be cracked. And real fast, okay, it doesn't matter whether it's 1/8 of an inch or 12 inches. A crack's a crack. Right. The other thing is not all cracks give off CO, guys. So I've heard some guys are like, oh, well, I stuck my, combustion analysis into the actual airstream and I didn't read any CO. It doesn't matter. If it's cracked in any way, it has the possibility of leaking CO. You know what I mean? So yeah. All I can say is educate yourself, guys. I was telling John earlier, I took a class that I won't go into, but I would like to think that I'm a pretty good tech and good at what I do, but I learned a lot. It really opened my eyes to a lot of things.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that particular class in a few weeks on a podcast. But, we're going to wrap this up here. But, like Gil said, we're kind of getting off topic. We're preaching about, things to do on the maintenance, but getting on the return subject, almost every return air that I go on is undersized, whether it be an air handler, a gas furnace. I mean, if I walk in 10 houses a day, 9 of them are short on return. So
yeah, you're right. I know we're getting done and we've been bouncing all over the place. The last thing I can say about your maintenance guys, I mean, maybe we didn't go in depth enough and I apologize, but just make sure you check everything, guys, and it's working right. You know, your electrical connections, make sure they're plugged in.
Yeah,
your wires look good. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good point, Gil. I want you. We did not touch on that. You know, take your screwdriver on the contactor, tighten up the high voltage connections, like Gil said. Check all your Molex plugs, push on them, make sure they're plugged in. Check the wires on your flame sensors, your plugs on your hot surface igniters. That's a great point, Gil. You know,
yeah. And if you guys want, if you put into the group that if you want, you need to know how to do a maintenance, you know, for a heat pump or a gas furnace, just do it. And I'll put a step-by-step on there for whatever, or John can do it. If that helps everybody, you know.
Absolutely. That's what this is all about, is technicians helping other technicians. All right, guys. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Gil, thank you for always being willing to join me.
Oh, you're welcome, buddy. Thank you for always letting me be here.
Oh, not a problem. Guys, thank you for listening to this week's episode of the HVAC After Dark podcast, and we'll talk to you guys on the next one.
#1 podcast in podcast land.
Sporlan Smart Pro R service tools are specifically developed to meet the needs of refrigeration technicians. All the benefits of our original kit, plus the Smart Pro R tools allow temperature readings down to -40 degrees, fit any diameter pipe, allow multi-coil superheat readings, and 10 times the signal strength. Find out more at sporlanonline.com.